Is I, your host, Allie. You can find me online everywhere at Ending with Allie. And today we have the one woman purple team show here, Maril, who works at Aquia.
Yes.
And all my listeners already know this. I love to get the guests to introduce themselves because I can never do them justice. So why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Maril Vernon. I am a red team operator, currently a senior security engineer, like Ali said, at Aquia. Oh my God, I just did that to my own company, Aquia. And I currently manage a purple team. So I'm a purple team program manager now. So I'm not so much of an operator as much as I'm a program lead now.
Awesome. And you have like a bunch of other things happening in your life right now.
I do. I have a bunch going on. Oh, I always forget to plug my own podcast. I'm also a co-host and co-founder of the Cyber Queens podcast, which is aimed at getting more diversity and background and Gen Zers into cyber so we can hopefully solve the skills and diversity shortage at the same time. And besides that, I do lots of talks and stuff around the community. And I have several more talks coming up this year. So yes, much going on.
Awesome. So, sort of getting started, let's just talk about how you got involved, especially because the whole point of the Cyber Queens podcast is to get more of the youth involved and get excited. What was your journey like?
Yeah, this is a super popular one. My journey is very unique. I talk about this all the time. So I actually started in cyber 3 years ago from a completely non-technical background. My dad was a kind of a mechanical engineer. He works in automations and controls for ICS systems.
So was
So he
my
works
dad.
really. He works in
But
SCADA. My dad's a SCADA engineer.
my dad went into business, but he has a mechanical engineering
Ah,
background.
yeah. So I think my dad technically majored in mechanical, but or no, EE. He was an EE major. Correction.
Oh, my dad was
Um,
mechanical.
Yeah, so same thing. He actually makes machines do otherwise manual tasks. But yeah, so I have a technical dad, but I wasn't really a technical person growing up. I never took a single coding class. The fanciest I got was I had to build like a personal website for a class in college once, and I did that mostly in HTML. So yeah, I came in 3 years ago. I started completely over from social media management and copy editing. I worked in a marketing function, getting into cyber, started in risk, went from risk right into pen testing very quickly. For those of you who don't know, my shtick was that I'm kind of the girl who got her Sec Plus in 2 weeks. So I got to be in pen testing, and then I worked up into the upper echelons of proper red teaming, and now I'm a purple teamer.
I was looking through your LinkedIn before this, and I saw that you have this like very rich history, and you know what? I didn't process how fast you did this.
Yeah, all that was done in the
You were
last three
telling me you've
years.
been doing this years.
Yeah. And
That's
3 years
crazy.
ago, I was so non-technical.
I'm
I
genuinely
always tell
scared.
people, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I didn't even know what IP addressing was. Like, I didn't know how it worked or what one was or why you have one. Uh, yeah. And now here I am.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to break this down because you did something right when you were talking about your Sac Plus. You did it in 2 weeks.
Yes. So I got hired into risk. My very first corporate job ever in cybersecurity was as a risk analyst. And for those of you who don't know, usually risk is a separate business function. You have like enterprise risk teams. I actually worked in the cybersecurity department. I was the risk analyst. And what I was doing was working with our third party risk programs, SOC 2 type 2 audits, and taking a lot of the stuff we were doing technically and tying it to business things. So, like, kind of proving like security's value to the rest of the org. And that was a great place to grow up infosec wise because I got a really slow exposure to a lot of different controls in those audits and like how you implement them and why we have them and what they do and how they protect you and how that benefits everybody else. So that was great. 3 months into that job, they opened up the pen testing position. And I had at that point taken over adminning a few of our tools, like our DLP tool, our asset management and vulnerability management tool. I'd written a few reports for my boss who did most of our pen testing back then. And I would just like take all her screenshots and put it into like an intelligible report and assign CVSS ratings to it and stuff. So when they opened up the position, I was like, I think I could do that. Like, I pretty much do that. You're looking for someone junior. They wrote it for me or this other guy who was like the other analyst level person. And I was like, if I'm just competing with him and any other external applicant in Reno, which is a small community, like, yeah, I think I stand a good chance. And they're like, well, you have to have a Sec Plus to apply for this. That's like the minimum. And I was like, okay. Sure. How long is this job open? They're like, you have 3 weeks. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a sec plus in 3 weeks.
So they were just like, did you like take time off of work? What was, I want to hear about your like study strategy because I think that's very interesting. We have a lot of people come on or in the security space that are talking about certs, and I people always ask me about the certs that I have, and I don't have any. I in reality, security is
Hmm.
my hobby. I love just learning about it in my own time, but obviously there is some weight to certs in the community. What,
Yes.
how, talk about your study plan.
We actually did an entire episode, not an entire episode, but like on alternate like bachelor paths in Cyber Queens. And we talk a lot about our cert journey and cert values. It's a big debate in our industry. Do you need them? Do you not? Better than a degree, worse, worth the money, not, skills, yes or no. And I will say there are some gateway certs, right? Like I had to have a Sec Plus to qualify to interview, but I didn't have to have like an OSCP or a CEH or any of that stuff. So I will say get the certs you need to prove you deserve to have the conversation. And once you have the conversation, it becomes less about the certs and more about the knowledge and the skills that you bring with you. So my study strategy was actually not for everybody. I don't recommend everyone do what I did. I basically didn't sleep for a week. I bought a book. I bought the all-in-one book for Sec Plus. I turned to the back, read the glossary, made sure I understood all the terms that would be discussed, flipped to the front, read that book cover to cover in a single week, took the test at the end of that week, failed it, went back and studied again my gaps the second week and took it again and I passed. So I passed on one book and I basically didn't sleep for those 2 weeks. So
Do
I
you
do
have
not
like a
recommend.
photographic memory?
I think I do. I think I have a mildly eidetic memory probably. And I'm a
Oh,
really good test taker. Like I study for the test, I take the test, I pass the test,
oh my God.
transfer the skills.
That
So
is frightening in the
I
best
know.
way.
It's not what got me the job though. It's what let HR let me apply. But what got me the job, I didn't rely on pretty much anything in the Security Plus curriculum to get me the job to pen test. I sat down with our chief risk officer and I said, I've already been working in your security department. I take no ramping up to do this job. I already admin these tools. I've worked with this material. I just passed this certain 2 weeks. I'm not going to wash out of whatever you throw at me. I'm going to be able to learn it and keep up with it and implement it. I know your strategy. I know why we do the things we do. I know everybody to go to for certain questions, answers, stakeholder responses. Like I'm really your best bet at making this work. This is also your first pen tester position. You haven't gotten offensive security off the ground before. So you need someone who can define it as they go along. And it's pretty much going to be me because I just did it for you with risk. And he was like,
Yeah.
yes, I believe you.
So kind of like on the other side, and I know that yeah, like on your Twitter profile it says for help break into cybersecurity, go to someone else.
Yes.
Just want to know this one thing. What do you think was the one advantage you had when you were first applying for that risk role that people who are looking for cybersecurity jobs today should really think about?
Honestly, I didn't apply. So the thing I'm going to say immediately is your professional. We call it personal branding, but it's your professional brand. When I started in cyber, I wanted to break into a field where they don't hand out entry level positions and they don't hand out opportunities. Like you have to make it happen for yourself. So at the time, I knew nothing about cyber, but everything about social media because I was a social media manager, right? So I leaned on what I knew. I knew I had academic aptitude. I knew I had the ability to take complex concepts and break them down into really simple, digestible pieces for non technical people like I was. And I knew how to leverage social media. So I took all those things, combined them, started putting myself out there, and the opportunity came to me. I actually tried to tell them why I wasn't a good fit for that job, and they just didn't believe me. So I just happened to have the soft skills and the ability to learn the technical that they were looking for. But I mean, you have to put yourself out there. Like, if no one's going to give you the opportunity to talk about what you have to seize that for yourself and leverage it for yourself and demonstrate it to the world so we know what it is you're looking for and what it is you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly, yeah. Wow. Okay. You're so
that's
driven.
my advice.
Oh my God, you're so driven. I'm so
Yeah.
jealous. And you've gone through so many roles in such a short amount of time. Before we even talk about like your progress in the industry, 3 years in accomplishing so much is not a lot of time. How do you handle
No.
burnout? Have you hit your burnout
Uh,
point yet? How do you
yes.
stay motivated?
Yeah, I did hit a burnout point. I also hit a point of overwhelm where I was just drinking from too many fire hoses at once, like when I got hired at Zoom. I had started a master's degree 1 year into this field because I was like, I can handle that. And I blew right through it. And then I started working at Zoom, and I wanted to learn, from all these badasses I was working with, and I needed to focus on that. So, I just realized something had to come off my plate. So like I was putting out a bunch of content before that. That's how I got hired, honestly, because that's my strategy, right? I took a year off, like cold from social media. I just I didn't have time to put into it. I couldn't water everything equally. So something had to go. So I focused on learning my job, focused on getting really good at my skills, and finished my degree. And then I kind of came back to the socials. So all I will say is recognize the signs for yourself, how it manifests for you. For some people, it's fatigue. For some people, it's irritability. For some people, it's like for me, I had no passion to start anything new. I was like, I usually love to create and love to do new things, but I was like, I have no motivation for that right now. I don't even want to start. So I knew that's when I'd hit a burnout point and I need to recharge my batteries. So do your things that you love away from tech that fuel you, like close the laptop and go interact with humans, or go for a hike, or do something artsy, whatever it is you do that helps you. Give yourself those breaks, because the tech will still be here, and it's so important in our industry. We say to stay on top of things and never stop learning, and also it's always changing, and also there's a new hack and a new exploit and a new thing to know. There's always something more to know. There's always more work to be done. It's okay to walk away and appreciate your work-life balance. So that's kind of what I try to do, but I usually don't recognize it till I'm in the burnout, which is a bad place to be. You want to recognize it before you get there, if you can. Uh-oh, I lost you on audio.
Nope, I have been
Muted
pressing the mute
yourself.
button on and off so that I can make sure that there's no reverb, because I want to make sure that I don't have headphones today for some reason. But what I actually wanted to ask about is kind of, and sorry I keep picking through your Twitter profile, but it is
No, go
just
ahead.
a great summary of you. The One Woman Purple Team. Where did that come from and why?
Gave it to myself because it's true. So I obviously started in pen testing. I have a background in offensive security, so we are the red teamers. But I also developed a passion and an affinity for cyber threat intel and threat hunting. So I worked as a threat hunter for a time as a contractor. I also got certified in cyber threat intel from EC Council. So I am a walking one-woman purple team, because I can do the red, I can do the offensive, the exploit, the post-exploit activity. I can threat hunt myself. I know how to look at logs. I can analyze traffic. I can help you find IOCs of offensive activity. So I do call myself that because I am equipped on both realms. But also, it's just really good branding, right? Always be branding.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I'm right now trying to play the social media game, and you know the right tools. So I gotta ask you this one question.
You can come to me anytime.
What are your thoughts on Buffer? Because I can't get it to work right now, honestly.
Buffer?
Yeah, for posting on Instagram.
I don't use Buffer. I use Loomly. I'm a big fan of Loomly. Loomly has no problems.
I will look into it.
So that's what I recommend. I used to use Hootsuite back in the day when it was the only one out there, but there are people doing it better. So for Cyber Queens and for my own personal, I use Loomly. It's worth it. So yeah, that's what I would do.
And actually, let's talk about Cyber Queens. So you've been in the industry for 3 years, and you've basically sped run. If this was some games done quick, you were I
did the 100-meter sprint. Yeah,
literally games done quick. I would watch this 3-year on a power stream or whatever. Let's talk about being a woman in the industry, having done this absolute speed run and absolutely breaking down barriers super fast, because you went from analyst to team lead in 3 years. Tell me about that journey.
It was like you said, it was fast. It was lightning fast. A lot of people think it was too fast. I've gotten that feedback. They're like, don't you think that you need to slow down? Don't you think that maybe you have more to learn? And I'm like, absolutely. I still need to upskill. I'm still learning a lot. I'm a young manager by all reasonable means. I'm young in my InfoSec career, and I'm young for management to begin with. But I also say believe in your capabilities. So for me, it was just the kind of thing where I wanted to work very, very hard for a small amount of time and get there quickly, because I was a single parent and it was kind of a do or die situation. So I wanted to work very, very hard for a few years, short years, get to a level, and then be able to plateau and design more intelligently and stuff like that. But really, it was just like I was trying to make the most amount of professional progress I could, and I made very strategic moves to that effect. So, I learn quickly. I benefit from the fact that I learn quickly. I retain well. I can replicate. My memory really helps me with that. I recognize not everyone has my memory, and I also it's attitude, right? So unfortunately, as a female and as a millennial in tech, it doesn't do you any favors. Like, I actually came across emails where gentlemen were calling me the boppy millennial chick in security, and like just talking smack on my findings and calling them all false positives and stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. If you want to discount the work because of who it came from and China hacks you, then that's on you. You could have stopped it. That's not going to come on down on my head, because I'm going to say I demonstrated these findings to them and they just didn't want to take me seriously. Like, does that sound like a place, like a meeting you want to be in? We could just be friends instead. So I lean a lot on my military background. I learned there how to be a woman in a man's world, but without being the overly combative or emotional woman, which is something a lot of us struggle with. But also not to be a dude, like not just to try to be a woman who's a man. So like relate to them as a woman, like be a woman, but relate to them on their level. And that's really served me very well. I know when to keep quiet and reserve the fact that I might be the smartest in the room, but I don't need to prove it. I know when to flex a little. I know when to stand my ground. And that's a very delicate dance that I've learned over the last 3 years.
Definitely. And you have a military background.
Yes.
What
I was
is
in I was in Air Force ROTC for 3 years. I went to like OCS. I was in Air Force Intelligence. And then after that, I actually enlisted in the Nevada Air National Guard to get my start in cyber, because again, I wanted to break into the industry, and I'm like, no one gets to just waltz on into cyber, especially having no coding. Like, I was like, you need coding. I don't even have that. So I went to the military where they'll train anybody. So yeah, that was my strategy. And then I ended up doing way better in private industry than before I ever went to BMT with the Nevada Guard. So yeah, it ended up serving me pretty well.
awesome. And I kind of wanted to roll back to something that you said, and talking about being a woman in the industry. You said that people said that you moved, quote, too fast. How
Mm-hmm.
do you feel as a woman and just as someone so new to the industry? How do you feel confident in the way that you're approaching problems and to be a leader and to feel strong in what you're doing, that it is the right thing, especially now as a purple team lead?
It's not always it's having confidence in myself. So I know myself really well. So I know what my deficits are and I know what my strengths are. And I know that I know my strengths well enough to be able to stand on my own, that I don't need anyone to support or float me. So I'm like, I'll be very honest with you. This is what I can do. This is what I do not know how to do. So if you're good with this and you're willing to let me learn this, which you know I can, then groovy, we have a match. But I am always upfront, because I don't want to sign myself up for a job that I can't handle. Like, I don't want to sign myself up for failure. And I mean, there's always upskilling to do. I really would have liked to stay at my red team longer. I loved my red team and learn a lot more. But certain opportunities get presented to you. And I was like, this is my niche that I've been building since I started pen testing. I started purple teaming immediately when I started pen testing. And I really believe in it and I love it. And that's one of the reasons I'm so good at it. And I was like, I might fall flat on my face. This might be too soon. I might not know how to lead or manage anything. And I might be really sad in 6 months that I left this job for this opportunity. But I have to try, right? Because dedicated purple teams were not a thing 8 months ago, January of this year. Mine was the first I'd ever heard of. Now they're popping up everywhere. They're like NVIDIA, Lacework, Meta, like they've all got them. But it was brand new. And I was like, I believe in my product and my service and my capabilities enough to give myself this chance. But I also did some pre-network to make sure that if I fell on my face, I could still get a job. Back as a red teamer.
No, and that's perfect. And that kind of like talking about your network and things like that. You said that you were making some very strong strategic moves. And I'm curious, for people who are listening, how do you decide what is the next strategic move for you to help you progress in the industry without stagnating?
I always backwards plan. So I always identify where I want to be and who I want to do it for. And I let that influence what I learn so that when that opportunity shows up, you never want to prepare when the opportunity shows up. You need to be prepared already. I prepare for those and I network with those people. Like, so I target orgs. Orgs might not know this, but I target them and I actively make myself someone they would want to hire, someone they could see working with their team. And then I make best friends with everybody on their team and everybody in their company. And then they're like, have we ever thought about just giving her a job? And that's honestly what I do. But in doing that, other people see the value. So I actually had targeted BHIS when I was doing all that platform building, and it worked. I got a job offer from them, but also I got a job offer from Zoom slightly before them. So, because I was targeting the skills and the work, other people saw the value and other organizations took notice and said, oh, you could be a good fit for our organization as well. So I always take the backwards planning approach. When I became a pen tester, I was like, what is there to do in pen testing? Because it seems like a lot. And I figured out, web app and cloud were the hot things. And I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on that. Like, I do need to know the networking and the C2 and the pivot and all that, but I'm going to learn this really, really good and start talking about it and make myself like a go-to in this and learn everything else after. I'm someone who can kind of sprint and then go back and learn to walk. I'm good at that. Not everybody can, and I advise that you walk before you sprint. I took a lot of gambles. I took a lot of risks. I'm a high risk, high reward type of career developer, but I advise people I mentor now and other people to be more intelligent and intentional. I was highly intentional, but be more patient. Think it out. So
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. One of the things actually that you said that I just now processed. First of all, you talked about Lacework. I used to work at Lacework.
oh,
It was part of the layoffs, but that's public
oh,
information.
I'm sorry.
Okay, got a cool new job now. Pretty happy
Good.
with it. But I actually wanted to talk about something that you said that you're seeing a lot of purple teams pop up everywhere. How do
Mhm.
now that you're leading this purple team, how do purple teams operate in companies being so new, and how do they operate working with companies that may or may not have red team and blue teams already in place?
Yeah, I actually addressed this in a lot of like my Purple Team 101 talks, like the Purple Team Roundup, the Purple Team for All talk that we did with Scythe and Plex Track. We talk about how it might look depending on your size of your org and your size of your security org, which are different, right? Whether or not you're still on an MSSP, whether or not you have in-house offensive ops or not, how it might look for you. So we don't have a ton of time. So without giving my full webinar talk, I'll just say that there's definitely a different makeup. It's a highly customized service that you provide. And that's why purple teamers who are out there pioneering these programs need to be so well versed in the methodology and in the various compositions and also in the metrics to track its success. Because how we make them successful is buy-in from stakeholders and belief from leadership that we can do our jobs. So purple teams really should play a natural evolution step in your offensive testing lifecycle. I advocate before higher echelons of serious red teaming, before adversarial emulation. You don't want to be wasting a bunch of APT like resources that can emulate APTs really, really closely if your blue team can't keep up with like some very basic offensive testing activities. So use purple team as a natural progression step. Do open collaborative style exercises. Train up the blue team on adversarial mindset and IOCs. Let the red team educate and explain. Bring up your red team on some blue team response processes and investigation processes, right? Makes them better when they do the clandestine work, makes them stand a better chance when you do the CTF style engagements, better all around. And then you can move on into red teaming. But purple teams really deal in all those tertiary intangible benefits to avoid like red team operation fatigue, false positive fatigue, non-value added manual investigations on behalf of your SOC. And what we do is we try to demonstrate definitive, not presumed, definitive, proactive, and reactive cyber resilience is what we do.
That's a great summary. That's awesome. And whenever I podcast with people, I always hear what they say, and then I take note and I roll back into things that they said before. And this is bringing it all the way back to the beginning of something that you said about the Cyber Queens podcast and getting Gen Z's excited about security. Let's talk about that, because like that is something that I'm also super aware of too. First of all, as we know, the cybersecurity industry is one of the few industries that has more openings than availabilities.
Yes.
Than actual
We have
people.
about 700,000 open job recs for cybersecurity professionals and only about 90,000 professionals to fill them.
Yes, exactly. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
For an industry. It is negatively unemployed. But Gen Z obviously is. Let's talk about why you're specifically targeting Gen Z. Like, I totally get it for me, and I'm, I one of my things that I personally think I can excel in is straddling that branch between Gen Z and millennial, and having those conversations and relating to things like that. So like I am fall into both your target and you at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, because I mean, for me specifically, I'm like, I've got my little like baby security book that I'm writing that I need to publish. But it's just like, yeah, you made this to focus on that.
Yes. I'm actually writing an article for CSO Online about this right now, about managing Gen Z and about that dance between like the Gen X and the boomer like wave, right? The millennial wave and the Gen Z wave, which is coming. So the reason the cyber queens want to target Gen Z is because we're all about diversity in cyber, right? First and foremost. The fact that we're going to help solve the skills shortage is kind of a secondary benefit. But most women who are millennials and above in age, who are going to pivot to cyber, have already done it. And like me and Natalie and Erica, we all pivoted from other careers first. And I'm just like, God, could you imagine if we'd started sooner? Could you imagine if you had thought this was an option for you in high school, if you had been told you could do this and you hadn't been presented one of like, it feels like 5 careers to pick from? Yeah, that happens to all of us. So we all have this in common. I wonder how many other people, and I've heard at least 7 people in front of me say, yeah, I was told I could be a nurse, a teacher, or a lawyer, and I didn't want to do any of those things. So I bopped around looking for a purpose. And I'm like, yes, this is the problem. And I'm like, Gen Z stands such a great chance at helping to address the diversity and skills problem in cyber, because millennials were kind of like, they call us millennials, right? We kind of grew up analog, like dial up and AOL was a thing. And now we're super technologically advanced because of all the recent advancements happening much faster than they used to.
And at the same time, all these Gen Zers grew up with iPhones in their
Grew
hands.
up. The first fully technological generation. Yes, they're called the .com generation for a reason. And they're the first fully globally accessible generation. Like, to them, there is no far-reaching anything. Everything is super close to home. And for that reason, they're going to show up already more skilled and equipped technologically than even we were. And they're at a super golden time to succeed in the workplace, because as boomers and Gen Xers move up into higher echelons where they're like more far away from the analyst level people, or retire, millennials are moving into mid and upper management. And we are a good glue between both, because we kind of came in and said, we'd like some changes. We don't like how you work yourself to death. We don't like this. We don't like that. Talking about mental health started to become a normal thing rather than a hush-hush thing. So we kind of asked for some things, but we gave way on a lot of things too. We're like, okay, that's fine. You don't want to give that to us? That's fine. We'll be happy with what we've got. We appreciate it. But Gen Z won't do that. Gen Z demands what they deserve, which is great. That's one of the things they excel at. We are one of those people who understands and wants that, but also are good at placating and appeasing and kind of being diplomatic with those generations who have a severe like relatability gap with Gen Zers. So this is going to be perfect. Gen Z also, from a value, like, I don't want to generalize the whole generation, obviously, but if you look at their profile from a high level, they value diversity. Diversity for them isn't diversity. It's not like, oh, we need to put some diversity in here. Like, that's their daily, every day. They are used to seeing a lot of different backgrounds and neurotypes and opinions and worldviews. They want that. And if they don't have that, they feel stale. They feel stagnant. They don't like being surrounded by people who look and act just like them. So they need to see it, and they're going to bring it with them, which is so great. And I mean, they want to feel fulfilled by their work. Like the money's good because they've seen the millennial and Gen X people struggle with recessions and stuff. So they really value their financial security, but they value their mental health and work life balance. They're not going to work themselves into the ground at 5 o'clock. They close their laptops and they walk away. And then they go spend time in the woods all weekend. Like they're very big on doing like the activities that fulfill them. And cyber is a fulfilling career, in my opinion. Like if it fulfills you, you'll love it and you'll stick around. So we just think Gen X, or not Gen X, Gen Z stands such a good chance to come in and succeed in cyber and push it forward, bring that diversity, bring that social, bring that social reform to this industry, because it's happening so slow for millennials, but it'll go lightning speed once Gen Z shows up in bigger numbers, which is going to happen by the end of this decade.
Oh, definitely, because if anything, they're entering the workspace, and that's actually something I share a very similar sentiment with, and I bring to a lot of employers, especially when it comes to being. So I work in developer relations, and I'm like, we need to keep in mind that these are the users who are going to be using our product, and if we make them bring and grow up with that product, they'll use it in the workspace. And yes. I just wanted to say, I kept on trying to say this when my mic wasn't working. One of my favorite things is like the Gen Z. It's like millennials will be like, yeah, I guess I'll like work on this job on the weekend, and I'm gonna grumble about it. But Gen Zers are like, weekend work? Okay, bye. I quit. Like in the drop of a hat.
Yeah, they don't even give 2 weeks notice. They're like, I'm out. I'm just not coming in. But we'll be screwed. I don't care.
Yeah, good luck. Your fault for not planning better, which is definitely a very interesting mentality shift that you see now, because you see that in, like, as you said, our older generations, they're like, oh, their failure to plan is my fault. And then Gen Zs are like, your failure to plan is your fault. Bye, not my fault.
Bye, not my problem. Yeah, no, they're very not my cow, not my pasture. So that or they're like, if you want me to do extra, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Always. Actually, we have a question from the chat, and I'm gonna read it here. Coder Richid, sorry, I can't read half the time, says, what level or skills are needed to enter to get an entry level SOC analyst for their first job? And automatically, I know there's a lot of resources out there that answer this question, but maybe because you've had a much more unique path into cyber, you might be able to bring a more unique viewpoint to this question.
Yeah, I will say I'm not a SOC analyst. That's more of a blue function. So we definitely have people who can answer this better. Natalie on the Cyber Queens, when we talk about our journeys and stuff, she was a SOC analyst and then manager, so she's got a lot of good advice. I recommend that you follow Will Broom on LinkedIn, who's constantly dropping entry-level resources for everything from SOC to pen testing to risk to threat hunting. He's got a lot of great resources. I will say a Sec Plus knowledge is going to be pretty great because it goes over cybersecurity concepts and where all the controls come from and how they apply to different systems and sections of your network. But really, you're just going to want to know how to look at logs, how to analyze traffic, how to search, malware and file hash sums to see if they're malicious, where you would go for those types. Just knowing your resources, where you would go to do an investigation. Like if I'm investigating an incident, what pieces would I start with and what pieces do I need to fill in, and knowing where those resources are, because we have access to those on the job, right? You have Stack Overflow, you have Google, you have Shodan, you have all the fancy things to help you. And then additionally, you could take a look at Security Blue Team training online. They have a lot of great training for people who specifically want to go into being a SOC analyst or a security engineer and architect. Fantastic. So yeah, that's what I recommend.
Awesome. And as we come to the end of this podcast, I love to ask this one question to my interviewers, because I think you have such a unique experience. Everyone has unique experiences. What's one piece of advice you'd love to give everyone that they don't normally hear?
I was evaluating doing a TED Talk, and when you want to do a TED Talk and you figure out your topic, they're like, if you had the whole world as an audience for 10 seconds and you could give them one message, what would it be? And mine was very clear instantly, and that would be that you are not stuck where you are. I don't care where you are in life. If you're a single mom starting over, if you're stuck in a rut at your job, if you're just dissatisfied with something, you are not stuck there. You could start over at any time and succeed if you have the drive and the motivation to do it. Sometimes it takes the risk of that outweighing the risk of failure, but you'll get there. And you determine your own rate of success. No one else can tell you how fast you can do something or how much you can achieve in how little a time. Everyone's definition of success is different. If I listen to people who told me to sit down and calm down, it's going to take you 2 years before you even are able to learn this thing, I would not be here today. So do it for yourself. Do it at any point in time that you want. I always say it's anybody can do it, but it's not for everybody. But if you want to, we are a very welcoming community. We will give you all of our secrets, all the value, exactly how we do things. We're here to get more people in to join us. So please do that. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I don't know how
There
to
you
use
go.
this mic. I was going to say it's shillin' time. Where do you want people to find you? What do you want people to know? Go for it.
Yes, my personal plugs. Okay, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very, very active there. You can find me at She Who Hacks on Twitter. My handle is under my name. I'm also co-host of the Cyber Queens podcast. We do go over a lot of these topics more in depth. Oh, it's the drop right there. I appreciate you so hard. Come find us at the Cyber Queens. You can hit us up on any of our social media platforms. One of us personally responds to every comment, every DM, every email. So please follow along. If you have questions, send them to us there. If you don't feel comfortable reaching out, you want to do it more anonymously, we can do that too. And then I will say you can find my upcoming talks. I'm going to be talking at Sans Hackfest on November 14th and 15th on Purple Teaming, if you want to learn more about that. And I also have a talk at VetSecCon coming up on transitioning military members and getting their first jobs in cyber. I do still help people break into cyber. All 4 of my mentees right now are trying to break into cyber. So I do have better resources who've done it more recently than me. Mine was 3 years ago now, which is old news. But if you need help, I can refer you to the right people. Just hit me up for absolutely anything you need, personal branding, purple teaming, or cyber-wise.
Awesome. You know, I had a great time. I'm going to hit you up about personal branding. Just gonna.
You should.
But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come chat about your experiences. I'm super glad I got the chance to meet you. But for those who are listening or are live right now, thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm your host. I'm at Ending with Allie on everything, including Minecraft. And we'll see you on the next episode. So,
bye.